welcome to Creep Show, part of the AOL network of podcasts. My name is John Wiederhorn, and we'll be talking today with a small group of people. We have a special show, and we're dedicating it to the life and music of the late, great Ronnie James Dio. Joining us on the phone is Chuck Billy from Testament, vocalist from Testament. Thank you so much for joining us, Chuck.
Oh, no problem.
And we've also got lead noise creep blogger Amy Sciaretto sitting right next to me.
Hi.
So, cozy group, but we've got some...
It's economical.
Yeah. But Chuck, we were certainly huge fans of Ronnie's music, and Amy and I crossed paths with him, interviewed him. You knew him on a more intimate level, having toured with him and as a friend of his.
Yes.
Can you tell us, really what his strengths were? I mean, obviously he was just a ball-busting singer, like one of the metal greats, but he was also a great guy.
Yeah. On top of that, just a great human being. The one thing that I noticed about Ronnie is how great of a memory he had. He remembered every time I seen him. He remembered my child. He remembered friends that he had met with us. It was just unbelievable, his memory. And to me, that really stood out. And really personal. It was always about how are you doing? It was never about the music. So my relationship with Ronnie was always just on a personal health and family level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sounds like he was a class act on the personal level, too.
He was, definitely.
Yeah, I think we're also joined on the line right now. David, are you there?
I am. How are you?
Excellent. I'm doing well. We have David Draiman from Disturbed here. And David, let me just fill you in. We're starting our show by talking about the late, great Ronnie James Dio. I imagine, as a fine, trained vocalist and, a guy who's been touring for years, you've probably crossed paths with Ronnie and are certainly a fan of him and his style.
Oh, one of the defining vocalists in the world of metal. The guy who really everybody wanted to sound like.
Yeah.
Just far and away one of the most dynamic and one of the most easily identifiable voices within the world of metal and rock. He was kind of like a textbook for every guy that's ever wanted to sing for a metal band. So, yeah, it's really unfortunate. He was an incredibly talented individual, an incredibly gifted individual, and it is a huge, huge, huge loss. Had
you met him?
Just once.
Mm-hmm.
Just once. He was actually on tour coming through Chicago at the House of Blues, and I was still living there. And it was just very briefly.
Mm-hmm. Chuck, sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Did you have something else to add? I interrupted.
No.
Chuck, do you remember the first time you heard Dio? I mean, you come from more of a thrash metal background, but of course you were a fan, and I imagine when you were younger, he probably impacted you in a major way.
Yeah, actually, Ronnie played in Antioch, California, I believe it was like 78, and that was the first time I got to see Ronnie play and live, and it was amazing. Power of such a small man, the power of his voice just blew me away. And from that point on, he definitely was one of the, main persons in my life as a vocalist. As far as the lyrics go, he just told great stories in his lyrics,
Yeah, he always did, and different kinds of stories too. From the stuff he did from Elf straight through Rainbow, where all the dungeons and the dragons and the mystery and magic all got cultivated, and then with Sabbath he took it on a darker path and discovered, delved into some more deeper occultish waters, although it never was like Satan or anything,
right.
but it was pretty mystical. And I remember as a kid being kind of freaked out, like if you look at the logo for Dio, I think if you read it backwards it spells devil or something. If you look at the way it's written,
the way the font is shaped.
The way the font is shaped, and I always thought that was really pretty
and
intense.
the irony of Dio being a translation of the word God in Italian too,
right.
so.
And of course he was one of the first to introduce the devil horns to the metal metal lexicon or metal world.
Actually, I was just going to mention that. That's adding to the irony. Is here's a guy who's using actually an Italian symbol to ward off against the devil, called the Molech, which ended up becoming the devil horn symbol that everybody uses throughout the world of rock metal, and unfortunately, it's been stolen from us a little bit by some of the other crowds too. I always think it looking really, really weird if you're watching some pop concert,
the Jonas Brothers or something,
and they're throwing devil horns in the air. It just doesn't really make any sense to me. But
I see baseball players throwing each other devil horns like
something.
Yeah.
Take it back. How do we take it back? How do we get back what's ours?
I don't know. Once it's stolen, that's it.
Yeah.
Now everybody's got it. It's kind of like that same, attitude that certain people take when a band becomes popular. They're not just yours anymore. They're everybody's.
Sure. Chuck, when was the last time you saw Ronnie?
I seen him at the Golden Gods Awards. Was that about 3 or 4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was his last public appearance too, I believe.
Yeah, and had a couple moments with him, and he. To me, I thought he looked pretty good. I thought, oh, here's Ronnie, man. He's same high spirits. Looked good, And so I was really happy to see him out there in public.
Yeah, he seemed very optimistic, even in interviews at that event outside on the black carpet. He said he had the best doctors, and there was going to be more music, and he was fighting this thing, and he was going to beat it, and I think everybody, including himself, really thought that was the case, and it's so tragic that it wasn't. But I think that optimism really is something that people can learn from and take something from. I mean, I interviewed him a handful of times, and I mean, what a upbeat, interesting guy. He never really talked bad about anybody. I mean, the closest he came was vaguely saying something about Ritchie Blackmore, which wasn't negative. In fact, I mean, he just said, "Well, just try going through the Ritchie Blackmore School of Music," and I'm sure he could have said a lot more.
Right, that's the the gentleman's way out of that scenario.
Yeah, he really—that's the word. He was a gentleman. He was a very dignified guy.
I remember the most touching thing. A lot of artists have released statements about it. About how Dio had, an influence on them or their experiences with him. And I thought Scott Ian had the most touching thing that he said. He was like, I feel honored to have shaken his hand, much less to call him a friend, So I thought that was really touching. Everybody seemed to have this universally positive, nobody had anything bad to say about him. And granted, nobody speaks ill of the dead, but he was, I doubt Axl Rose would be generating that kind of love,
but the flood of positive comments has been incredible, too. I mean, it's just everybody has had, a very heartfelt statement to make. And it's speaks a lot for him as a kind of beautiful man.
And it's been like the past few weeks, there's been a lot of, there's been so much in the media of the coverage of Bret Michaels, of Peter Steele. There's been a lot of tragedies in the metal world lately.
Too many tragedies.
Too many.
There really have. There's been a lot.
I mean, it seems like we have, the highest number of them. If you look amongst the genres, and you'd think it wouldn't be anymore.
You would think it would be like the hip hoppers.
So clean of that stereotype, But my God, I mean, Jimmy from Avenged Sevenfold.
Right.
I mean, it's really been a rough number of years. It's been a rough decade.
Dimebag Darrell, that was another one. Somebody.
Dimebag Darrell, Dave Williams from Drowning Pool. I mean, the list goes on and on.
And it's not even a case of live by the sword, die by the sword. Most of these guys either died from tragedy or died of natural causes.
Yeah, it
wasn't
it wasn't of their own hand. Like Dave from Drowning Pool, he had a heart defect.
Right.
Dimebag, that was a crazy person, and
right.
And just it's really, it's very sad. It's just people want to assume sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and that had nothing to do.